For those of you joining over on YouTube, getting ready to go live on TikTok, obviously going to be talking news, politics in this pre-Thanksgiving Day live. Don't know what we're going to get for viewership. We'll see what happens. I have not talked to TJ. Don't know if he's going to pop in and moderate for us, but we are live over on TikTok now, waiting for people to show up. As we're getting into it, we are going to be looking at, news and politics. Like I said, going to be looking at what potentially can happen in the next administration. Some of the news coming out in the last few days about the incoming administration, things like that. And I know Elon's got a new target. He wants to go after the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau as part of his efforts with the Department of Government Efficiency, which I want to keep saying does not exist, and I don't think ever will exist, because I don't think Congress will appropriate a budget and a mission and all sorts of things like that. So we'll see what happens if they actually create that department, but Elon wants to go after the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. That is the bureau that was created in the aftermath of the 2008 housing crisis. And part of what they do is they go after banks and things like that, making sure that they follow fair finance practices, that all of the credit card terms are laid out in pure, simple language, that there's no hidden fine print that anywhere that that people miss, that they're the ones that have capped credit card interest rates and have it clearly spelled out what the interest rate is, what the intro term is, and for how long, and all those terms easily on the application so you can find them. That is part of what the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau does. They went after Bank of America, was it? Or was it Wells Fargo? One of the two that had people signing up users for new accounts and credit cards and things using their information without their knowledge, because they were getting in trouble for not signing up enough new accounts, things like that. And they came to a deal with them, this Consumer Finance Protection Bureau did, and they paid like a $250 million settlement. They're the ones that stepped in after the 2008 housing crisis and made it so you couldn't do these subprime mortgages where you gave people who weren't credit worthy a loan for way more than they deserve, and way more than maybe not deserve is the wrong word, maybe more than they could afford, at an interest rate that they couldn't, pass up because it was really cheap. And then they would turn around, and then months in, whether it was a year, 2 years, 3 years, they would have a balloon payment due or a massive interest rate jump, and then they couldn't afford the payment, and then they were going belly up on these loans. Consumer Finance Protection Bureau is one of the groups that makes sure that doesn't happen anymore. But Elon Musk, as part of his job with this non-existent department, government, what is a balloon payment? Balloon payment is where basically you have, like, if your monthly mortgage payment or whatever is normally $600 a month, they will tell you, well, we're gonna charge you $600 a month for 9 months, and then 9 months you have a bill of like $3,500 for 1 month. Your payment's gonna go sky high for 1 month, but if you can't make it, then you're in trouble that way. Then they can start working on things like doing foreclosures, things like that. Basically, nobody hated on Elon until he became friends with Donald. That's not true. I thought Elon was a joke when he bought Twitter. He bought Twitter for $40 billion and tanked it down to 10. Elon's not a good businessman. He's not a smart man by any means. fact, since I don't have a moderator yet, I haven't seen TJ, I'll handle it myself. A lot of people joining in. We're talking news, politics. Elon is part of his thing with the Department of Government Efficiency, which I keep saying doesn't exist and may never exist, because I just don't see Congress passing anything to allow this government, department to come into being. They would have to pass some sort of a bill that would give them a mission, a clearly defined mission, thanks to the Supreme Court, and a budget and, responsibilities, etc., and what they can and can't do. And I just don't see any of that happening. At best, the Department of Government Efficiency is going to be an outside advisor, and I just don't think it would happen. Mike says, I'm surprised Trump won both Iowa and Ohio since 2016. Seemed way too smart to fall for his BS. I was surprised Iowa went to Trump. I thought for sure Kamala was going to win Iowa, especially after the tariffs and needing the bailout for farmers. We had soybeans rotting in the field because of Donald Trump's ill-advised trade war, and we're going to go right back into another trade war. Iowa not that long ago went blue. And Seltzer poll too, can't believe it. Yeah, she was considered the gold standard, and I don't like polls at all. I don't trust them, don't like them. They've been, up until 2024, they had been wrong pretty much consistently since 2016. And now somehow they were completely right in all the swing states. I mean, I still don't trust them. I don't trust polls. But I just can't believe Iowa has gone red ever since Donald Trump came on the scene. Iowa was trending blue up until about 2014. And we even had Democratic governor, Democratic state legislature. Then in 2014, in order to try to win back the governor's mansion, they brought Terry Branstad back for the Republicans, a guy who had been governor like 20 years when I was a kid. And a lot of people ended up voting for Branstad. And it started the shift to the right politically toward the Republicans here in Iowa. It's one of the things anyway. But Iowa went blue for Gore. It went blue twice for Obama. We were trending that direction. Mike says, you're in Georgia, was surprised and happy it was only R plus 25. Yeah, Dems still have a fighting chance. That's the thing. I really thought, I thought Georgia was going to stay blue. I thought Marjorie Taylor Greene was going to get beat down in Georgia. And for as bad as it is that the Democrats lost Congress and the presidency, here's the thing. One thing to consider, if this gives you any sort of hope. The math for the Senate was always bad for Democrats going into this election. There were 34 seats up for grabs this election because there's always a third of the Senate up for grabs every 2 years. And there was 34 seats up for grabs. 9 were held by incumbent Republicans. It was very hard for Democrats to hold the Senate. There was a good chance they were always going to lose the Senate just with that math. Now, the House, they're staring at it, probably going to have a 215 Democrat, 220 Republican House is what it's looking like. They are going to have about a 3-seat margin. And those 3 seats, there are 3 that are going to be vacant because of Donald Trump appointments. I'm not saying we could flip the House because of where they are and special elections get weird. But while those seats are vacant, if they get appointed and they get into their seats, that means Republicans could lose 1 vote and have, anything they try to do fail. They're not on the same page right now. they don't have a strong majority in the House. For Democrats losing the House, not flipping the House in this election, this was about their best case scenario. Is that they have it by such a narrow margin that Republicans aren't going to be able to do much at all. At all. Like, they just won't. They're gonna need Democrats in order to pass much of anything. They're gonna have to come to the Democrats and say, hey, we need to pass a budget. We need to raise the debt ceiling, things like that. Will you help us? And Democrats are going to say, yeah, don't cut funding and you got our votes. Don't mess with the debt ceiling. Let's just pass it clean. You got our votes. Democrats have a lot, with this thin of a margin in the House, Democrats have a lot of power. In the Senate, there's the filibuster. Democrats are going to be using that a lot. And this is why it is hard for the Senate to get rid of the filibuster, because the minority party loves the filibuster when they're in the minority. When they become the majority, then they hate it. Then they want to get rid of it. Mike asks, how do you think Democrats can move forward gaining back blue-collar votes while keeping progressives? I've been saying in my lives and in my podcast appearances, there is a chance if Donald Trump crashes this economy, that if a Democrat comes forward with a New Deal style message, but they got to keep the message simple. Yes, Joe Biden did a lot for working people, and that was kind of his thing, but the message got lost a little bit. Same with Kamala Harris. There was a lot of, they didn't get, I don't want to bash on Kamala Harris. I think she had a good idea, and I think she was a great candidate, and she ran a great campaign. But there was too much messaging. They were trying to talk about everything bad about Donald Trump while still talking about their positives, and it was an uphill fight for them. But if they come in with a New Deal style message again, then I think they could end up having a solid chance here of regaining the of regaining the presidency. Who do you think the best Democratic candidate could be in 2028? That's an open field for the Democrats. I've heard Kamala Harris may be willing to run again. Don't know how she would do in an open primary. Handling a little bit of my own moderation because I haven't seen TJ yet. Kamala Harris could run. Gavin Newsom. You got Shapiro. You got, some people have suggested Tim Walz. You got Gretchen Whitmer out of Michigan. Democrats have a deep bench of people. Raphael Warnock, Andy Beshear, all good choices. All good choices. Pete Buttigieg. I hate to say this, but this could be the case. It may be easier to get Pete Buttigieg in as a candidate than it would be to get a woman in as a candidate. I hate to think that way, but a lot of people are saying it could be that, that was at least part of why they didn't vote for Kamala Harris is because she's a woman. I think there's at least some people that voted that way. Hakeem Jeffries could be another choice. Although I think for Hakeem I don't know who the governor of Maryland is, but maybe could be another one. I can't think of their name. Hakeem Jeffries could be a great candidate for the Democrats. What was I saying? I lost my train of thought. Oh, Hakeem Jeffries. I think he could be a good candidate if Democrats somehow in the midterms or something end up gaining control of the House and he ends up as Speaker. I think Hakeem Jeffries would have much more of a profile as Speaker of the House to launch a presidential campaign from, especially if he gets to, start blocking a bunch of stuff that Donald Trump wants to do. It's funny with these certain people. I block all of them. You can tell where their mindset and where they lie, but they don't have any substance to come into to argue. They just come in and make comments like the guy I just blocked did that says "nice wig," or they go after your appearance, or they come in and they say Trump 2024, like they're doing something. They don't add to the conversation. Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland. Okay. I guess now that you mentioned it, I have heard that name. Yeah. There goes another one. And I block anybody like the guy that, you know, yeah, I don't deal with the MAGA crowd. Most of what they do is they come in, they get mad, they report your live, they get your videos taken down, they get you content strikes, and they're still angry. They're mad, and they won. Well, the last one, Thomas asks who's getting blocked. Well, the last guy I blocked was a guy in the comments who. I won't repeat the name of the person he suggested to run in 2028, but let's just say they had a notorious organization that wear white sheets, and that's all I needed to know. And out he goes. Don't deal with people like that, because that's not adding anything to the conversation. That's just trolling, and I don't deal with the trolls. Bedford. Who's Bedford? MAGA. They're afraid the leader is not going to make it all the way to the end. Oh yeah, there's a good chance he might not make it. I don't know if he makes it all the way to 2028 or to 2026 to the midterms. Kate says, what can we do to get rid of Kim Reynolds? Well, I don't know much about the guy. I've already seen at least one Democrat enter the race for the primary. We need to get out, figure out who our candidate's going to be, and push. Now, I thought there was a good chance Kim Reynolds would have gotten beat 4 years ago, or 2 years ago in the midterms when she was up for re-election. But again, I think Democrats ran the wrong candidate. And there goes another one. Rob Sand. Oh, for governor. I know that name. I don't remember where from. I mean, Iowa was heading the right direction up until Republicans, because they couldn't beat Democrats. Oh, he's the state auditor. That's where I knew that name from. Iowa was heading blue up until Republicans couldn't beat Democrats. They couldn't. So they had to bring the dinosaur back, run Terry Branstad, And you had a lot of people, I knew a lot of people my age who went, "Oh yeah, he was the guy who was governor when I was a kid. He did pretty good without knowing shit about shit," and they voted him in. Then he gets promoted to be ambassador to China, and in comes Kim Reynolds, and we get something way worse. Oh, you think part of the problem was no primary? Well, there was a primary. There was a Democratic primary. And you voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as a ticket. Um, yeah, well, yeah, but the problem is, with I keep asking people who were mad that there was no primary. Would you still be mad if there was no primary if Joe Biden had died the day he stepped aside instead of saying, "I'm just not running"? If Joe Biden died or was medically incapacitated and resigned and was no longer the president, would they still be having the same issue that there was no primary? Because then Kamala Harris would be the incumbent president. That's my point. Is she would have been the incumbent president. When I voted for Joe Biden, I always knew Kamala Harris would be the yeah, another troll gone. Would be the could be the president if something happened to Joe Biden. So when he said he wasn't running, I assumed Kamala Harris was going to be the next one to run. That made sense. Before Joe Biden stepped out of the race, I said Joe should finish the race. It was too late in the game to have Joe Biden step aside. And at the time, I said Joe Biden should finish it out. But if he didn't finish it, the logical person to run would be Kamala Harris. That made sense. Joni says no one challenged her in the party. They had a chance. Yeah. You can go away. Well, they did, but they were also up against, they had like 10 days from the time Joe Biden stepped aside to when they had to have a decision made as to who the candidate was. Democrats pushed Joe Biden out with like 10 days on the clock to get a candidate nominated and officially voted on ahead of the convention because they had to meet filing deadlines in a couple states that refused to extend the deadlines until after the DNC. They had 10 days, roughly, to make the decision. So whether or not there was a primary, they did the best they could in the time frame they had. Joe Biden should have probably finished the race. But that being said, Kamala Harris was the logical choice, and she ran a good campaign. A few years ago, Trump said 25th Amendment would be used on Joe Biden. Yeah. I said in the first term we were expecting the 25th Amendment to maybe be used on Donald Trump off and on. That was well before I was on social media. And they were even talking about using the 25th Amendment on Trump after January 6th, just to remove him for the last 2 weeks of his presidency because of how dangerous he was. Donald Trump probably wouldn't even know what the 25th Amendment was if it hadn't been talked about using it on him at some point. And then, yeah, it's probably projection because he's afraid they'll try to do that to him. The party would have been divided if they had a primary and chose somebody else. Well, exactly. How do you, as a party, especially, come up with How do you as a party go from having the first uh, half Asian, East Asian, half black vice president and potential nominee, and who's also a woman, and say, well, no, we're gonna run a primary, and we're gonna run anybody else, and say they did a quick primary somehow and came up with anybody, Gavin Newsom. Don't you think that could have split the party too? Like, it would have been horrible. No matter how they did it, they didn't have much of a choice. I mean, the Democrats shouldn't have pushed Joe Biden to step aside when they did. At the time, it was too late in the race. Maybe he should have stayed in. I don't know. You can look back all you want and guess. Either way, could Joe Biden have beat Donald Trump? Probably. The problem is Kamala Harris was trying to distance herself and talk about what she would do different, all while still trying to claim credit for the Biden victories, and she was in a tough spot there. Newsom would have made it worse at the last second. Oh, probably. Newsom probably would have made it worse. And I like Gavin Newsom, but I think switching to somebody like that at the very end would have been horrible. Kamala was the best choice in the moment. And I keep saying, and I've asked, I'm like, what, if Joe Biden had resigned instead of stepping aside and said, okay, I'm no longer going to be president, my health's gotten to me, whatever, and Kamala just became the president from that point forward, would that have made a difference? Would people still have been mad about no primary? Who cares about credit? We will all suffer. Oh, are you talking about with the Trump presidency? I mean, it's going to be bad, but it won't be nearly as bad as it could be. He's not going to be able to do nearly everything he wants to do. And Congress is going to step in and stop at least some of it. Because they know they have to get reelected, and they're not going to be able to go back to their states and their districts and say, this is the good things we did for you, as stuff's burning down around them. I just don't think Congress would have to pass something like to abolish the Department of Education. Don't think that happens. Elon Musk came out and said he wants to get rid of the the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. And again, that would take Congress. I don't think there's going to be any interest with Congress to get rid of it. Elon may be able to get some stuff done through Trump with executive actions to weaken it a little bit, but I just don't think that's going to. I just don't think Congress is going to do it. Ms. Singleton says, if Trump can do all these things, why can't Biden stop him from being president? That's just it. There's not as much. A lot of the things that people are saying Trump is going to do, he either can't do without Congress, or he can only do in some kind of limited fashion. And the president doesn't have nearly the powers people think that he does. Like, for example, there will be elections in 2026. There's nothing Donald Trump can do to prevent it. They don't have the votes to change the Constitution to somehow get rid of voting in or changing the terms of members of Congress. I mean, in theory, sure, they could pass a constitutional amendment that would say, make members of the House of Representatives serve 20-year terms and senators have 60-year terms or something. But they don't have the votes in Congress to pass an amendment like that. They also would need 38 states to agree to ratify that kind of an amendment. And again, they just don't have 38 state legislatures that would agree to something like that. So there's going to be elections in 2 years. Biden can't do much to stop him, because there's nothing that can be done at this point, short of somehow there being a court case between now and January 20th that rules Donald Trump is ineligible thanks to the 14th Amendment. I don't see it happening. I mean, unless something comes up in one of these, if there is a recount or if there is a court case, if there's something moving behind the scenes that we're not hearing about that would prevent Donald Trump from actually being the winner, then yeah, they could do something. But Biden can't just unilaterally say, well, I can't allow Kamala Harris to certify. That doesn't work. That's not how that works. Again, the immunity thing that the Supreme Court gave Donald Trump, that immunity decision, isn't blanket immunity. It is it's limited only to things that are already powers of the president. Trump has a Republican Congress that's in charge. They will do what he says and won't. Remember? No, they won't. And they're already pushing back against it. John Thune, the incoming Senate Majority Leader, has already said he's against the idea of recess appointments, has already said that they may have to push back against some of the presidential power, especially when it comes to budget, things like that. Donald Trump can't get them much more at this point. He got them the presidency, sure. He got them the House and the Senate, sure. But they have a 2-seat margin in the House, maybe 3. And they are going to be working with such razor-thin numbers. If even 1 or 2 House members say no to a bill, it can't continue. They're going to be busy fighting amongst themselves. What about those Trader Trump tariffs? FAFO. Trump charged prices up and away. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those tariffs, all they're going to do is add to the price of everything. And he might not even be able to put all the tariffs on that he wants. He's allowed to put limited tariffs up to a certain percentage without Congress, without their approval, and it's only for a limited amount of time. It's like 5 months or something like that. Anything longer, and Congress has to act. And somebody else pointed out that in the Constitution it says only Congress has the authority to lay taxes and duties, which are tariffs basically, on imports. So Congress is going to have to use their own authority and push back. They may have to sue and have the courts say, hey, yeah, you've overstepped your bounds here, and go from there. Why were people saying Elon bought the election? Also, what's with Starlink? Well, people are saying Elon Musk bought the election in part because he donated. He had that weird PAC that was running in Pennsylvania that was running a scam giveaway of $1 million a day to people who signed this stupid petition that did nothing. No. Back. There. This petition that didn't do anything. And basically, as long as you were a registered voter in a swing state. And that's part of what they're saying. There's also the Starlink thing. There are some people trying to say that Elon Musk's Starlink internet had something to do with uploading the vote totals and changing the totals. Not the counting or the counting machines necessarily, but changing the numbers after the fact as they got uploaded. But we're not hearing any elections officials saying, hey, these totals you guys are saying are wrong. they don't match what we counted in our districts. So I don't think there's anything to it. Native Texan says, top 2 Google searches after the election. What is a tariff and how can I change my vote? Exactly. They win and then they go, well, wait a minute, what's a tariff? As now, right after he wins, companies say, yeah, we're raising prices. And then you hear about other companies saying, they call their employees in and say, yeah, no more Christmas bonus this year. We're not doing raises the rest of the year. We're scaling back overtime. Got to buy inventory because we don't want to, ahead of the tariffs because it's going to cost us more. And then people going, wait a minute, that's not what we were told. We were told China pays them. Dumbasses. Native Texan gal says, why is MAGA so angry? They won. Yeah, exactly. Hey, there's TJ. TJ's my moderator. Nice to see you, TJ. MAGA's angry in part because, one, they were expecting, I think, to lose. They were geared up to lose. And then, surprise, they win. So they were already angry in advance, expecting to lose. I think was part of it. And two, they're mad because we're not acting the way they were. They want us sad and, angry and rioting and, 60 lawsuits and threatening to storm the Capitol and everything. But because we're just like, yeah, we hope you get what you voted for, and we're, being adults about it, they're mad. They were prepared for the fight, and we're not giving them one. And they won when they were prepared to lose, and they thought, they thought they were going to have to fight afterward. It's just not a thing. They do want to fight. And I don't understand why. I don't understand why everything with them has to be a brawl. MAGA is mean and hateful, exactly. They are. It's all about, making somebody else, feel bad. It's all about pushing out somebody else and making them, making other people less than you, so that way you don't feel as bad about your own positions. Trump, the 25th Amendment is zero risk to me, but will come back to bite Joe Biden in 2021. Yeah, exactly. TJ says he's crying now because he got booted. Yeah, TJ kicked out. The one guy who asked why said something about me crying. Yeah, I just don't deal with those kind of people. We block them all mostly. Try to anyway. I even go in if I'm watching somebody else's live or somebody else's comment section, and if I see the typical MAGA Trump supporter, I just block them ahead of time so they don't even find my content. Like I said a little earlier in this live, all they do is report your content, get your lives taken down, and that way you get you get content strikes and you get live bans, things like that. And I just don't want to deal with it. Although sometimes, despite our best efforts, they still get through. He's not going to make it 4 years. GOP will use the 25th. It's entirely possible, and I've been floating this idea out. Now, this is like slim chance of this happening, but I've been throwing this out there that there is a chance if things get bad enough, if he starts doing all of this stuff, there's a chance that the Republicans themselves will end up using the impeachment process and removing Donald Trump. It is entirely possible that they end up using the impeachment process and remove him. If they can't reel him in and control him, because if they can control him, he's a useful idiot. Trump said the 25th will haunt Joe Biden, and then said, be careful what you wish for. Exactly. Yeah, they could use the 25th. And the idea of President Vance isn't thrilling. Here's the thing. If they use the 25th with VP Vance to get rid of Trump, not ideal. Vance would be more of a wild card. If the Republicans had just used the impeachment process and convicted their own president and removed Trump via impeachment, then I think J.D. Vance walks a tightrope and doesn't step out of line, and he also doesn't seek re-election. I think he just puts his head down, doesn't say shit about shit, and tries to stay under the radar as president the best he could. Because wouldn't you be scared as hell if you're the VP and for the first time in history a president got removed via impeachment and it was your own party doing it to your own boss? Oh, it would look horrible for the Republicans if they removed Trump. But here's the thing, they may have to save any resemblance of the Republican Party. They might, because there is a good chance if they don't reel him in, he could end up burning everything down, including the Republican Party, as he goes down. Entirely possible. Oh, to burn everything down, including the Republican Party? Yeah. Yeah, he does. Trump wants to burn down the Republican Party. He doesn't care. He'll burn it all down, you know. Looks like we got a couple out there, TJ. I'm sure you see them. But yeah, he wants to burn it all down. He doesn't care. If he could nuke the USA, he would. Trump, I think he'd consider it. He's only out for whatever's best for him. Whatever makes him look like a genius, whatever makes people cheer him. That's all he cares about. Do I really think the current administration of Democrats are working hard to fix what? Suppose, yeah. How long do I think he'll keep Elon around? Hard to say. Hard to say how long he keeps Elon around. They got similar personalities. So ultimately, they're going to end up bucking heads. And when they do, it's going to be a matter of time till one of them has to back down. And it's not going to be Donald Trump. It's not going to be the sitting president. Elon will be out of there so fast. he'll be a joke. Oh, do I think Democrats are? I think they're trying. They're doing the best they can. Um, you got to remember, first 2 years of Biden's administration, he had a 50-50 Senate where he had Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema. Manchin and Sinema were Democrats, yes, or Democratic leading independents, but they didn't vote with Democrats a lot of the time, or they would hold out and say, well, I'll only vote for your legislation if you give me X, Y, or Z. And I know that's kind of how politics works, but they took it to an extreme, and they blocked a lot of stuff because they kept saying, well, I can't tell my voters that I voted for this. Manchin was great about that, coming from deep red West Virginia. Then what does he do? He decides, well, I'm not running for re-election anyway. So he blocks everything for 2 years and, holds up what he can and then says, well, I'm not running for re-election anyway. So he was just being in the way. Then after Biden's last 2 years, well, Republicans had control of the House. They couldn't get nearly enough passed. That's the problem. Joe Biden can only do so much with the way the government works. He's not a king. He has to work within the Constitution and within the powers that are granted to him by that Constitution. And he needs Congress to pass laws. He needs Congress to authorize the spending of money. And no Democrat has ever been given a supermajority. That's not true. In fact, I'm pretty sure FDR had a supermajority when he was in. Trump wants to put he might try, but again, the simple fact is Republicans know they have to get reelected. They don't have the votes to change the Constitution, and if they allow him to do too much out of bounds, they can't go back to their voters and say, hey, vote for us again because XYZ when things are burning down around them. The filibuster doesn't help. The filibuster hurts. The filibuster hurts when you're in the majority. The problem with the filibuster is that both sides like it. They have when either side is in the minority, they like the filibuster. Plain and simple. Because it gives the minority power a chance to block whatever the majority party wants to do. And then when that minority party becomes the majority, they don't want to end the filibuster because they're always afraid of the other side getting back into power at some point in the future and passing everything, and they'd have no ability to block it. And got another one. But yeah, both sides love the filibuster when they're in the minority. And then they, like I said, they refuse to get rid of it when they're in the majority because they're always like, oh shit, what if we become the minority party again? Instead of getting rid of it, passing a whole bunch of stuff that helps the American people, and then if they would pass a bunch of stuff that would help the everyday person and really do it like FDR did, they would be in power for like 20 years. That's what happened with FDR. FDR comes in 1932, starts doing a bunch of stuff with a Democratic-controlled Congress. They do the things like the TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority, where they putting people to work. He passes a federal minimum wage, sets up the FDIC. If the Democrats were to do things like that again and really get a bunch of stuff done, Obama was a pretty good president and he got a lot done. And he ended up getting reelected. And the Democrats at one point had a 60-seat supermajority in the Senate with Obama. Now, it didn't last very long. It didn't even last, I don't think it was 2 months. But at one point, they had 60 seats in the Senate. If they get stuff done for the everyday people, they would only ever continue to grow their voting base. Problem is, there's at least a small section of this country that will only ever vote one way. You're never going to change their minds. I did see an article, I did a video on it earlier today. There was an article, somebody went into, the MAGA side of Twitter and was looking at them after, what was the guy's name? Donald Trump's pick for SecNav came out, who has no ties to the Navy whatsoever, not even a Navy, that's the guy I'm talking about. It's not Hegseth, that's Secretary of Defense. There's another hedge fund millionaire guy who he picked to be SecNav. And normally, not always, but normally, even if it's somebody with no military experience, it's somebody who has ties to the military in some way, like they were a defense contractor or something, like they worked closely with the Navy in the private sector, is normally who gets something like SecNav. The guy Donald Trump's picking up is appointing as a hedge fund manager. And apparently, this article I read, somebody went on to the MAGA side of Twitter, and some MAGA creators are melting down over it, going, well, wait a minute. I thought he'd only pick competent people. We need real military people in charge of the Navy, things like that. Why is he picking a hedge fund guy? Do I still think Trump will get an attorney general that may go after his enemies? That's the one thing I heard about Pam Bondi. I don't know a lot about her, but from the articles I've read from people who have done more digging into her, that Pam Bondi would be the one for attorney general. She's more interested in not defending certain legislations, things like that. Sounds like she's got more integrity than just turning it into a what am I saying? She doesn't want to go after his enemies, things like that. Lost my train of thought. The guy he's picking for SecNav makes about as much sense as a cardiologist for urban development, exactly. No, we're talking about not the guy that worked for Soros. That's the guy he picked for Treasury. Yeah, the SecNav nominee hosted a fundraiser for Trump at his mansion in Aspen. That's his main qualification, is he's a mega donor. That's his qualification. That's what some MAGA people are seeing, according to that article I read, from somebody who took the time to go to the MAGA side of Twitter. I refuse. My brain can't handle that much stupid. And they're like, oh, well, this guy's not qualified. He has no ties to the military. TJ says none of them are qualified. I'd say out of his picks so far, I would say Pam Bondi so far has been the most qualified for any of his picks going anywhere. because she was at least the Attorney General for the state of Florida for 2 terms. So she's at least she is a practicing attorney. I would say that's the closest thing to her qualifications. Her greatest qualification was taking a bribe from Trump. Maybe. But like I said, the biggest thing is compared to everybody else he has picked, she at least has worked in a similar situation. John Phelan, SecNav nominee, millionaire, art collector, hedge fund manager, mega donor. Yeah, exactly. No ties to the Navy there. Yeah, she took a donation during a decision about Trump University. No, it wasn't Aileen Cannon. Aileen Cannon was on the list, on the short list at least, before they settled on Matt Gaetz. TJ got rid of Scott. Yeah, like I said earlier in this live, a lot of them don't add anything to the conversation. They come in and they attack your appearance or something like that. Mark says she might be Supreme Court judge. I said that a while back, that I thought all of her rulings for Aileen Cannon to be, or for that she was making, all of the dumb decisions she was making in the Trump documents case was an audition for the Supreme Court should there be a vacancy. But it is at least sounding like none of the 4 we were watching are going anywhere and giving Donald Trump the opportunity to nominate somebody. That being Alito, Thomas, Roberts, or Sotomayor. Was it Sotomayor? No. Yeah, I think it was Sotomayor that has got the health issue. Or is it? Yeah. Okay, I was right there on Sotomayor. I couldn't think if it was her or is it Keegan? Is Keegan the other one? That's not. There's 3 liberals. Yeah. Sotomayor is the one. She is facing some health issues, but she's hoping she can survive out the Trump administration and allow the next president after Trump to replace her, at least, if not well beyond that. They've been asking her to step down and have Joe Biden appoint somebody between here and there, but problem is she would have to step down and then have everything done with the replacement before January 2nd of next year, and there's just not a lot of time left for that. Bondi chanted "lock her up" at a Trump rally. Wouldn't surprise me. She's been a avid Trump supporter for a long time. I was just saying, she's at least been an attorney general, somewhere. She at least understands the job of an attorney general. And that's just, I'm not giving her much credit at all for being qualified. But comparatively to some of the other picks, that makes her more qualified than most of them. I mean, Linda McMahon, as head of the Department of Education, what does it say about her when she was on the Connecticut State Board of Education, and was only there for a very short time? It was like a day or so, and she had to resign because she didn't actually have an education degree. She's got an education certificate from the 60s and a degree in French. She doesn't even have an education background. She's a CEO or former CEO of a multi-billion-dollar entertainment company. That is not, qualified. There's nothing there that connects to education. Now, if she had had a degree in education, maybe. But we know Republicans don't care about education, clearly. It blows your mind that nobody cared about Trump's crimes and indictments. Exactly. Exactly. Those 34 prior to Donald Trump, the Reagan Republican Party would have kicked out a guy like Trump. He never would have been the nominee. The problem is he fell ass backwards into the presidency in 2016. TJ said WWE and Fox News are the same, pretty much. Baby Kitty says, true DEI hire. Yeah. As I saw, Thomas the Villain Bishop had said on here, Republicans truly are the DEI party. Didn't earn it. I will give him full credit for that one, but I liked it. You know, Matt Gaetz was unqualified to be Attorney General. He had to step aside. Some people are saying Matt Gaetz may try to run for governor of Florida. And I honestly would love to see Matt Gaetz run for Florida. It could mean Florida flips blue. You could end up with a Democratic governor of Florida if Matt Gaetz is the opposition. Matt Gaetz as governor of Florida, yeah, would never win? Exactly. I mean, I guarantee you, if if Matt Gaetz runs, that report that he's been trying to hide from will end up coming to light. Is Matt Gaetz better or worse than DeSanctimonious? Probably worse, actually. Because as far as we know, we have not heard about anything about DeSantis having, any sort of contacts with minors. You heard the fact Kamala was campaigning with Liz Cheney pushed a lot of folks away. I, you know, I said that a little bit. At first I thought it was a good idea. I thought it was great that she got the Cheney endorsement, especially from Dick Cheney. But then I think she spent too much time campaigning with Liz Cheney, and she should have just ran on the platform she wanted to run on, made sure she got her house in order, carried the voters on the left, and if she brought anybody on the right with her, great. But they were trying to go after every single voter on that would be disenfranchised by Donald Trump and lost a bunch of people on the left. DeSantis and Abbott were kidnapping. With the migrants, yeah, definitely. Dog hair gets everywhere. Yeah, they were. They should have been. They should have been charged with that. Interesting thing about that is, from what I read, is any of the migrants that they shipped anywhere, Um, they are technically victims of crimes, and potentially they could get their green card and be allowed to stay now because of it. It's a form of kidnapping when it's for your purposes, not theirs. Okay, that's a new one. I hadn't heard that one. Elon came out with a thing today. Kind of started talking about this earlier. He wants to do away with the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, and that's the group that uh, protects you from bad banking practices. Basically, make sure that they don't do the subprime mortgage lending again and over lending to people, and when you get a credit card offer in the mail, and or even you sign up for a card, all of the disclosures have to be there and not buried in subprint, and they have to be crystal clear up front what kind of terms you are. um you know I don't know why he wants to go against it other than to help his banker buddies. Would DeSantis appoint Laura Trump to fill Marco Rubio's seat? I've heard that. Some people are saying he's going to nominate himself. Um, so I don't know if he would fill the seat with Laura Trump or not. Native Texan gal says, my mom and dad are from Iowa, Tipton and Brooklyn. Okay, cool. Banks are hoarding properties and even second ownership of cars. Yeah, um, they do that, but the the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau came about as a result of the 2008 housing crisis, where banks were doing subprime lending and lending to anybody and everybody super fast, super easy. Um, I know several people who were had three, four, five times their housing value loaned out on it. There's no way their house was worth even a fraction of what they had borrowed on it. You think large scale money laundering will soon be dependent upon farm bankruptcies? There could be a little bit of that. Could be some farm, definitely could be some farm bankruptcies with the uh, tariffs and stuff that's going to hurt farmers real bad. You'd think they would have learned their lesson the first time around. There was, what, 3 decent years under Trump, which had nothing to do with him, and folks are worshiping him. Yeah, exactly. The bulk of the good years under Trump were still um, we're still under the Obama economy because Donald Trump didn't pass anything to change it until he started to, and then when he did do things like he put the tariffs on, um, ended up in a trade war. You had soybeans rotting in the fields, and then they had to pass a bailout to save farmers. The things he did do that affected the economy failed. Project 2025 also removing all payments and relief programs. Yeah, there's talk about that, and I don't know how much of that they can do without Congress. I know some of them are programs that are set up by the agencies themselves, and I don't know if they can just remove them or if they're tied into their uh, charters, things like that from the government. Like if they would have to pass legislation to remove them. Thank God a lot is through third parties. Oh, you're talking the like the debt reliefs and the payment options and things like that. Yeah, those kind of things. If they're third party, they won't be touched. Um, it's going to be interesting. They'll try to cut Title IX funding. Oh, probably. Farm subsidies through more, substantial structures. Yeah. Yeah, they're going to try to cut Title IX. They're going to try to cut anything and everything they can cut. Why is it now that the Heritage Foundation authors are louder about their plans? Well, that's easy. They won. They can come out of the woodwork screaming at the top of their lungs. They've got 2 years to do whatever they want. And they think their stuff is going to be so successful or that it's going to work so well and prevent things from change, or they're going to change enough of it that in 2 years it's not going to matter and people are going to just go with it and continue to vote them back in. Now that they won the election, they can be louder about it because they won. They were quiet before because they knew if they were loud about it earlier, people would have voted against it. They would have, if everybody knew exactly what tariffs were, if they knew what half of Project 2025 meant to be, and if Donald Trump had came out and said, I'm all for Project 2025, things like that, he would have lost in a landslide. But because they lied about it all the way through, now things are going to hit the fan and they can brag about it. They're going to brag, and they've been they've been waiting to brag. Exactly. They think they've done something, but they don't have the margins to do half of what they want to do. It's just not going to happen. Wait till you see what they're going to do to the NLRB. Yeah, I'm worried about what they're going to do to that. They're going to try to gut as much protection for organized labor as they can. Well, told you so. You're not going to be able to tell me anything anymore. Um, and if you knew what Project 2025 was and you looked at it and you said, nope, still don't care, voting for the guy, you voted against everything that is this country. Worst part is Trump has been an illegal immigrator for his own needs. Yeah, he'll hire him. He's got no problem hiring him because they work cheap. He's pushing for a second for-profit prison system. Prison slavery is legal. Yeah, exactly. Thin margins in the House will give you some comfort. They can't get along. No, they can't. And that's the thing. Uh, what's going to happen to the K41? I don't know what that is. No, the thin margin in the House, they're at best going to have like a 3 vote margin. This is the thinnest margin going back all the way to Herbert Hoover in 1929. They are going to be fighting amongst themselves to pass anything. They're going to need Democrats, and we'll have to see how bad the Democrats want to play ball. Yeah, Trump is going to be he's going to be regarded about as bad, if not worse, than Hoover. I mean, I think a lot of the historians are already ranking uh, Hoover ahead of Donald Trump a long time. Tazwell says it would be much better if the thin margin was a Democrat margin. True. Because then they could be obstructionists and block everything. But on the other side, if you give them complete control for 2 years and they burn everything down around us, they can't point at Democrats and say it was, all Democrats' faults. Oh, 401ks? I don't think 401ks are going to go anywhere. But if the stock market starts to drop, you're going to lose a lot of your investments. The shocking truth is Trump is going to be the only president worse than Trump's first term. Yeah, that's probably true. I saw something where one of the official rankings by historians who've looked at presidential elections and in presidential terms, and they rank them as far as best to worst, etc. They have William Henry Harrison above Donald Trump. And does anybody know what William Henry Harrison is famous for? I'm going to give you guys a couple seconds to think about that one. Because this is kind of what he didn't do much during his presidency. Just going to throw that one out there. William Henry Harrison's only claim to fame and the only thing he accomplished during his presidency was giving a 3-hour speech in the rain on his inauguration day, catching pneumonia and dying. And historians are saying he was still a better president than Donald Trump. That is ridiculous. Like, how bad do you have to be that a person who caught pneumonia and died a month later is still ranked as a better president than you are? But the slim margin in the House is going to help us. The filibuster in the Senate is going to help us put some guardrails on. And there's not a lot of love lost from Republicans to Trump. They are going to be blocking at least some, if not all, of what he wants to do, simply because they got to get reelected. They're already saying as much. John Thune has said they may have to push back against some of his budget requirements because they don't want to give up the power of the purse to the presidency. Congress has the authority over the budget. They don't want to give that authority up. And if he wants to cut some of this stuff, then, they're going to push back and say, no, we're going to tell you, where you have to spend this money, and we're not going to let you cut some of these budgets. It's not like Trump won't share the blame. Well, that's the thing. Donald Trump won't take any of the blame. He's not going to take the blame, but he will sure share it with everybody else and say it's everybody else around him's fault. You think everybody should have a great Thanksgiving and not try to think about what's going to happen in January? It's going to be a sad day. It will. But that's why I'm doing these lives. That's why I've been doing the videos. Just looking at where things are going to protect us. And we have some things that are going to help us a lot. Like I said, thin margin in the House. You got the filibuster, the courts. Joe Biden has done such a good job of filling out the court system. Donald Trump's going to have the fewest number of judicial openings of any president who is coming into a term. And those appointments that Joe Biden made are appointments for life. They are very hard to remove a federal judge. We all have to sit together and realize, like, we're great people and we didn't vote for this. Exactly. I know a lot of people who are cutting out varying family members and friends who voted for Trump and stuff instead of dealing with them at Thanksgiving. And that's that's the case. I mean, we need to just surround ourselves by people who are like-minded, and let's not um, get wrapped up in the blame and the fighting anymore. Just let they're going to have to find out on their own how bad it's going to be. Joe Biden's always been good at politics, very much so. Joe Biden is one of the reasons that Barack Obama is such a great president and is remembered as such a great president. Because as VP, Barack Obama could send Joe Biden to Capitol Hill, where he knew everybody and was friends with everybody on both sides of the aisle and could make deals. That was Joe Biden's thing. He was good at doing the behind the scenes work and using the political capital that he had to make stuff happen. Addison says, I think sometimes we might need to make our circle a little smaller. Exactly. Barack Obama will always be the best president we ever had. You're not going to lie. I don't know if best. He was great. Don't get me wrong. I was a huge Obama fan. Voted for him twice. If they changed the rules and he could run again and he chose to run again, I would vote for him again. But you still got other people up there that are also in consideration. You got Lincoln. You've got Washington. Best in our lifetimes? Probably. I think one who doesn't get enough credit is Jimmy Carter. Carter doesn't get nearly the credit for being as good of, maybe not a great president, but just a great person. Now, they don't have the votes to change the Constitution, but if they were to change it and would allow Obama to run again, Obama would mop the floor with Trump if that had to be a contest. Hopefully Biden isn't forgotten as just a bump in the Trump era. No, because Joe Biden did quite a bit of good in the 4 years he was in. He's not going to be forgotten by any means. Addison says you had some hope in America. Yeah, exactly. I didn't think America was going to do what it did. Looking at all of the outside of the polls, looking at all of the other factors, it looked like she had the momentum and was going to win. Trump won, America lost. Exactly. Biden did way more than you thought possible considering what he was up against. Yeah, imagine what Biden could have done if he wouldn't have had Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema in the Senate. And he would have had two actual Democrats who were working with him and not against him in the Senate his first 2 years. Imagine what he could have accomplished if he would have had a 5-seat majority in the House instead of having the Republicans have the House his last 2 years. He would have gotten a lot done. Yeah, for some reason, women, specifically white women, didn't come out and support Kamala Harris. I don't understand why. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Um, Now, some people are saying she may try to run again in 2028. That's entirely possible. And it could go entirely different. I think if she runs, I think she would be according to the only poll that has been out about Democrats so far, she's the front runner. Um, and you're 4 years out. That's a long way out from any sort of primary consideration for 2028. But you got to give some weight to the fact that she would be the last president, vice president from the Democratic Party to run. Like, if she chose to run, you would have to consider her the front runner right off the bat. And it would be, at least conceivable. It's funny how women preach girl power in public and vote against their best interests. Exactly. Mark says he's intrigued how the 26 midterms will go. Depends on what the economy's doing. If Donald Trump has done the shit he plans to do that we are saying will crash the economy if he has done it to any extent and the economy suffers, you could very well see a Democratic House, Democratic Senate going up against Donald Trump. Typically, the party in the White House, if they have control of Congress, typically loses seats in Congress during the midterms. And if it's a shit show, you could be talking ridiculous margins. And then if he doesn't have Congress his last 2 years, he's going to be so ineffective, it's not funny. If he doesn't have a Congress backing him, I mean, he's going to struggle to get anything passed anyway. Oh, he'll make it a shit show regardless, but if he doesn't have Congress to help him, though, he's not going to be able to get anything done. And then, 2028 comes around. People will learn by midterms exactly. If he does everything that he claims, like those tariffs, we know they're gonna raise the price. Well, Mexico has already said they're gonna do retaliatory tariffs. Canada has basically said the same thing. It's only gonna hurt us. And when it tanks the economy, they're gonna have to learn. Rebecca says some will never learn. They may not, but I have come to see. I know several people in my life who were staunch anti-abortion people. And when it came down to one of their loved ones or something, and they finally needed it, suddenly they were 100% on board. 100%. When it was their own family. When it came to them, do I think the U.S. economy is too big for Mexico to fight us? No. They're our biggest trading partner. We sell them the most stuff. So if they put tariffs back on us, that means our prices in Mexico go up, sure, for selling American-made stuff in Mexico. Here's the thing. All that does mean is they'll quit buying stuff from us, and it will hurt the American economy. Our economy's not too big to it's not too big to hurt them. It would hurt both sides. That's the point. It's not good for anybody. Joe Biden called Trump Herbert Hoover Trump for losing more jobs than what he started with in 2017. I mean, yeah, you're right there. And now one of his plans to help with the housing cost is to set up encampments in uh, on federal land, basically tent cities of some kind. Well, gee, didn't we do that in 1929 when the stock market crashed? Granted, it wasn't official government cities, but tent cities popped up. You know what they called them? Hoovervilles. Yeah, once again, we're giving Donald Trump another great economy. The problem is, this time he's planning to do things that immediately that would actively hurt the economy that we can see coming a mile away. So when it does tank, right off the bat, we can go, here's your policy. The last time, he didn't enact many policies. So the economy just kept cruising right along where it was, and things were doing good because he didn't fuck with it. He left it alone. Why didn't Biden remove the tariffs Trump had in place before he came in office? They were those tariffs were targeted. They were only on certain things and certain products. You know, it wasn't blanket tariffs across the board. It was only certain things. Targeted tariffs can be a good thing. Blanket tariffs can be a bad thing. When you're talking about putting 25% on everything coming from Mexico, Canada, and 35% for everything coming from China, our three biggest trading partners, where we get the most of our stuff, and you're talking everything, on top of putting on tariffs on other countries as well beyond that, again, on everything, you can't make that difference up in the American economy. Targeted tariffs, you can say, okay, well, we're gonna only target foreign cars, okay, to help the U.S. automakers. Targeted could work. It could help the economy and could boost U.S. manufacturing. But when you're going everything, especially on stuff we just don't grow here or don't grow in the quantities we need, like coffee. We don't grow coffee here, period. We grow a little bit in Hawaii. But the total amount they grow in Hawaii would supply what Starbucks uses for 3 months. And their yearly supply would be up. We don't grow coffee. We have to bring it in. We don't grow chocolate. We have to bring it in. So if you're putting a tariff on products that we can't produce here at all, where's the benefit to boosting an American version? We could have had a normal election cycle in 2024, but you think the crazies would have gone back into hiding? Yeah. You know, if Joe Biden wouldn't have, if prior to the primary season, if Joe Biden wouldn't have ran and Kamala Harris would have gone from, launched at the primary point, we could have been talking an entirely different race. I still don't know if Trump would have been involved. He probably would have been because he was running to stay out of prison. I don't think he so much wanted the job as he wanted the protections of being a candidate. That was his big goal. He wanted the protection of being a candidate, and he somehow fell ass backwards a second time into the presidency. Yeah. We'll see what people like that say in 2 years when everything ends up happening and we see the actual results of his campaign, of his second term. Addison says, I think we've had to be honest. She had 107 days to pull this off, and she did an amazing job. And one of the points I've been making numerous times in numerous lives has been from if the day she stepped aside, you know, she was campaigning sort of to be VP. But from the day Joe stepped aside, she had 107 days to step into the role. Now, there might have been some talk ahead between her and Biden before he decided to not run and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Are you going to be the candidate? I don't think he blindsided her with it. But she threw together a campaign and put on what should have been, we should be talking about how it was a masterclass of a campaign. People don't realize that American people will pay the tariffs. Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of people realize it. The Trump supporting side of it doesn't realize it. Those tariffs are not beneficial. You know, targeted tariffs can be great, but like I was saying earlier, when you start throwing tariffs on things we don't produce here, not nearly on the quantities either that we need or we just don't produce them at all, what do you expect? Let's see. Oh, just unstable. Okay. For some reason, it's not liking my internet connection, but that's okay. I'm only going to be going for a little bit yet. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't starting to get content warnings. You know, when you go throw tariffs on things we don't make, that's why, like, Joe Biden and the CHIPS Act was great. He put money into the economy to build computer chips here. We didn't have that kind of a thing. Now they're starting. It's an uphill battle, but it's starting to get done. They're starting to get made here. Prior to that, anything that would require a computer chip, you throw a tariff on it, now you've raised its price 25%. You kind of feel like they get what they deserve, yeah? They may have to learn the hard way. That's part of why I keep looking back at history, and I talk a lot about the Great Depression, Herbert Hoover, things like that, and say, they learned the hard way. They put in Hoover, economy goes to shit, and completely to shit. And then FDR comes in with the New Deal and wins over the blue-collar voting base for 20 years plus. And they may have to get completely burned down by the Republican Party in this one for the Democrats to come back around and pick it back up. All right, I think I'm going to wrap this up. I appreciate everybody who's stuck around and, we've been part of this great conversation. I hope everybody has a Great Thanksgiving tomorrow if you are here in America or if you celebrate Thanksgiving. Um, so I hope you have a great Thanksgiving tomorrow. If you are celebrating, I hope you are surrounded by people that you want to be around and who are, you know, a pleasure to be with. You know, and you're not around people who you don't want to be around. I know a lot of people who have cut out family and friends because of politics. So I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. I appreciate everybody for joining me. For those of you that joined, I do want to let you know I record all my lives. This will be up over on uh, my YouTube page. I am Analytical Iowan over on YouTube. I will get this posted later tonight. It'll probably be up sometime tomorrow. I'll be doing more of these. I don't think I'll be live tomorrow because of Thanksgiving. I know everybody's going to be busy, but I might do another one over the weekend sometime. I appreciate anybody who started following me. If you, like I said, if you didn't catch all of the live and you want to catch the rest of it, it will be up over on my YouTube page, Analytical Iowan on YouTube. There is a link tree in my bio. I post all my TikToks over there. I post my lives. I've got a list of government answers where I try to talk about things. I've seen people have issues and misunderstandings about how the government works. Um, so I try to do that, try to help out there and check those out. I've also got my email up on that link tree as well. I appreciate the gift. Um, if there is something that you want me to expand on a little bit, you could always shoot me an email and I'll look into it and either do a TikTok or a longer video over on YouTube about it that way too. So once again, thank everybody for joining me. Hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving tomorrow, and I will catch you the next time I go live. End. There we go. All right, wrapped up over there. Um, had another great live. I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving, and I will catch you the next time I go live.